Boker Tov, Bruchim Habayim, Morai B'Rabotai. We are continuing on Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim, continuing on Hilchot Shabbat, starting Siman Resh Samich Bet, which is the halachot of preparation for Shabbat, setting up yourself for success as preparing for Shabbat. Says the Shulchan Aruch, and again, this is straight from many beautiful Gemarot in Masechet Shabbat Daf Kuf Yutet, how the Amoraim used to prepare themselves for Shabbat. Yesader shulchano v'yasiya hamitot v'yitaken kol ininei habayit. You should set up the table of Shabbat. The Mishna Berura says it's already from Erev Shabbat, from Friday. V'yasiya hamitot. You should set up the beds, which again mean in the time of Chazal, beds was not just the bed that you sleep on, but they ate also leaning on a bed, and they had a small table each person in front of them. So it's both of those. That's part of the shulchan. Would be the small shulchan, private shulchan that everyone had in front of them, and what they leaned on was the mitah. So it's both of the bed that you sleep on, the bed that they would be part of the shulchan of Shabbat. All of that you should set up before Shabbat. Going into Shabbat, v'itaken kol inyanei habayit, everything in the house should be set up already. Kedei sheimtzaenu aruch umsudar bevo'o mebeit hakneset. That you should find it properly set, properly ready for kavod Shabbat. V'yesh shulchanu aruch kol yom haShabbat. It's not only that, says the Ramah, but rather you want the entire Shabbat for your shulchan to look good. Ve'chen minhag, says the Ramah, that's the minhag. Ve'en leshanot, you should not change the minhag. Now, what does that mean? So the Mishna Berura says they used to have two tablecloths on top of each other, because the table itself is not so nice necessarily, right? It's the table nowadays. We live in a disposable generation. Everything is nice, and everything that gets one scratch gets trashed. But back then, like, your great grandfather's grandfather made a table, and it was still around. And if you take the mappa off, the table may not look so nice. So you want to shake off the bread, the crumbs, or clean it up. You take the mappa off, and for a moment, the ugly table underneath is going to show. That's also not kavod Shabbat. You want it to look good at all times. So you have such a minhag over there, in preparation for Shabbat. Also, we know the Chazal that Mishna Berura brings over here, that two malachim walk with a person from Beit Knesset until his house. And when he enters the house, if the house is set up, everyone is calm and composed, everything is nice and beautiful, the positive malach, right, says, what a Shabbat, Yehi Ratzon, it should be the will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The next week it should be also like this. And the negative malach, Baal Korcho, he says Amen, right? Chas v'shalom, vice versa. If the house is a balagan, they're pulling their hairs out, and it's last minute things are not ready, everyone is upset, and the edge, right? The malach Ra says Yehi Ratzon, the next week should be like this, and the malach Tov, Baal Korcho, says Amen. So that's, of course, something that you want to be mindful as well. Now the Prisha writes in the name of the Sefer Akedat Yitzchak that there is no bad malach, right? There's a bad malach. What does it mean, a bad malach? There's no such, in Malachei Elyon, there's no negativity, right? But these are the two kochot, these are the two energies that a person has within himself always, right? If you would want to translate this Prisha and this Akedat Yitzchak in modern day terminology, it would be like you get used to it and it becomes a routine. Once you break the routine once, you do something good, you already have started, and that creates an energy within you that you could do more of the same. Of course, the Vilna Gaon says this in his Perush on Mishlei in Perek Aleph Pasuk Chaf Gimel, that there's actual spiritual force and energy created by everything positive that forces you and does not rest and does not go away until he forces you to do more of the same, and Chas v'Shalom vice versa, right? In every action, so that component is for sure there, and that could be what the Malach over here is referring to. But nevertheless, again, these are the kochot that exist within a person, spiritual and physical, psychological things. They're all correct at the same time. So he even says that the Girsa in the Gemara, Malachi HaSharet is a Taut Sofer, right? Fine. But again, we have in Yaakov, in many of the older writings, we already have Malachi HaSharet. So whether it's actual angels or it's the spiritual force and energy, like the Gaon writes, or it's the psychological routine of a person, all of those are true at the same time. But that's what happens, says the Gemara. Now, Tov lefanot kurei akabish. It's brought in Mishna Berura that you should take away. This is also Kabbalistically speaking, you should take away all the spider webs from the house from before sundown, from before Shabbat. They should look clean. It should be nice, right? Lenakod et habayit lechvod Shabbat. It doesn't care about killing the spiders. That's a separate issue. But you don't want it to look ugly with all the spider webs. So you clean it up. V'tov yizaher b'seudat halayla. You should be careful not to throw things outside the area of the shulchan. Because back in the day, especially that they didn't have the flooring system that we have, it was asur to sweep the floor. Mashvei gumot. So if you're not careful and food is all over the place, then the house will look very unclean, not neat, and not put together. So therefore, be careful Friday night to keep things clean for Shabbat morning. It should still look bekavadik and nice. Fine. So it says, Sefer Makneh in Masachet Kiddushin, Daf Mem Aleph, beginning of the second perek, he says hachana for Shabbat is a mitzvah that's mefurash in the Torah itself, right? Because it says, pasuk says, ve'chinu et asher yaviu. You have to prepare what you will be bringing. That's a mitzvah of hachana for Shabbat. It's a mitzvah that's mentioned in the Torah. It makes, ve'chinu et asher yaviu, right? It's basically preparation of, you can't cook on Shabbat, tofu efu, bashalu, right? You're going to cook what you need to be cooking before Shabbat, right? You need to bake. You bake. All those things are preparations for Shabbat. So, says the Makneh, you see the mitzvah of hachana for Shabbat, this fact that you want to enter Shabbat, everything is ready and nice and beautiful, mukhan, ready to go. It's already conceptually mentioned in the Chumash itself. And it pays to say lechvot Shabbat, right? The mitzvah, as you prepare, the Kaf HaChaim brings this from the Ari HaKadosh Ben Ish Chai says it as well, that there is an element of hachana bedibur, that you prepare yourself with speech, not just with actions, but even with your speech. How do you prepare with speech? When you say, I'm doing this, lechavot Shabbat, right? Everything that you prepare, everything that you do, you say that this should be done lechavot Shabbat, right? So, again, it gets very Kabbalistic, this whole shulchan of Shabbat, right? The Gemara says, Shulchano shel Adam mechaper alav, right? It used to be Mizbeach in the time of Beit HaMikdash. Nowadays, the Beit HaMikdash is not there. Your Shulchan is mechaper, right? The concept of Shulchan by itself is very important. The Ari HaKadosh, the Marchu writes, that he was very makpid to eat only on a table that has 4 legs. Nowadays, it's not necessarily like that because you want the corners not to be taken by a leg. So many of the tables nowadays, they have 2 pillars, 2 legs basically, with each one of those has 4 legs, and so on. But says the Marchu, the Ariya Kadosh was very makpid to eat only on a table that has 4 regalim, because that was the dimyon to the shulchan in the Bet HaMikdash, right? The shulchan in Bet HaMikdash had to be like that, and that's kabbalistically speaking. Reb Chaim Palaji also writes that it's not mentioned exactly what the details should be, but this much we know of having 4 legs. Fine. Now, al pi Kabbalah, you should have 12 breads on the table on every Su'udah of Shabbat, right? And the tzurav, the way it is set up is like 2 segols, like you have 2 on top of each other, like so it's 6 double, 2 on top of each other, 6 of those. It's 1, 1, 1. So in other words, there's 2 in the middle, which is 4, right? And then there's 2 on top and 2 on the bottom, which would be 6 times double breads. It will be 12 breads. That's al pi Kabbalah how it should be. Again, those who are not doing everything based on the Arizal and the Ben Ish Chai and so on, it's not something that you have to do. Even 4 would be sufficient, even up to Kabbalah, Yud Kev, Vav Kev, whatever. But that's there are different levels of holy levels that people are mindful of. Gavoah mal Gavoah, Ugvohim mal Gabehem, and this is something that Ben Ish Chai writes in Parashat Vayera and Kaf HaChaim in our Siman as well. The Baal HaBayit should be mesader the shulchan himself. The Chatchila says Rabbi Eliezer Papa in his Chesed Alafim, because mitzvah bo yoter mi b'shlucho. It's more mitzvah for you than for your shaliach. So partaking in the mitzvot of Shabbat, it's something important. Now, also al pi Kabbalah, it should have besamim. Well, even al pi halacha, because you're missing a lot of brachot from the 100 brachot that you have to say on Shabbat. So it's always good to have besamim on the table. This way you could, every so often you could make a bracha of besamim as well. Fine. So that is Sif Aleph. Sif Bet says Maran, Yishtadel shiyu lo Begadim naim leShabbat. You should try to have nice clothing for Shabbat. Ve'im yefshar lo, and if it's not possible for you financially, lefachod yeshalshel begadav lemata derech kavod. They would tuck in or roll up their begadim in the work days to protect them, also to be able to work easier and better. So that's not kavod Shabbat. At least roll them down nicely. They should look more bekavodik, more proper. That would be the minimum that you should do. Fine. Now, lechatchila, especially al pi Kabbalah, but even al pi halacha, you should not have any of your weekday garments on Shabbat, right? Even chaluk, even the chaluk was what they wore under their garment, right? Not quite the undergarment that we have, but even that was different. Says the Mishna Berura. We learned this from the pasuk of Vechibato. The Chazal darshin shelo yeh malbushcha shel Shabbat ke malbushcha shel Chol. That your garments of Shabbat and Chol should be different. Ve'tov shelo yilbash b'Shabbat mikol ma shelabash b'Chol. Best would be nothing. After there are people who have Shabbat shoes right? Even though the mikar adin shoes, you could just wax them nicely and wear them, but they have Shabbat shoes and Shabbat glasses and Shabbat kippah and Shabbat hat, right? Afiru chaluk, even the garment underneath your top garment, your shirt, whatever it is, should be separate. Vim efshar lo tov sheyeh lo gam talit acher Shabbat. Chatchila, you should have a talit of tefillah that's miyuchat for Shabbat as well. Now, na'im is nice clothing. What does that mean? Kfi choldo, depending on your financial capability. Va'afilu imhu b'derech levado, even if you're alone in an island, right? Or you're home, you're not feeling okay, staying home, you're quarantined. You're not there to impress people with your $4,000 suit, right? But still, you wear it even at home. Why? Because not for impressing other people, it's for the kavod of Shabbat. Levado ubebayit, right? It's not, you're not with other people, you're around goyim or alone. Gam ken nilbash bigdei Shabbat. You still should be wearing bigdei Shabbat. Ki ena malbushim lichvod haroim. The nice clothing is not for the kavod of the people who are going to see you, right? You're not running a contest. Ki im lichvod Shabbat. It's for intrinsically for kavod Shabbat. So as long as it's Shabbat, you're wearing it for kavod Shabbat. Kada b'sefer Chasidim, al yikach adam yeled b'Shabbat ad sheyasim techila kar beheko. Says, don't take your little baby on your new Shabbat suit, because next thing you know, they spit up or anything else that could happen, and they will be upset.
Badge of honor.
So those badge of honors, you say it only after it already happened. You want to play it nicely. You say badge of honor, but to prevent the badge from honoring you, right? You put a burp cloth, you get something underneath it, or you take off your jacket, whatever it is, before you hold them. Kedesh lo yitanif begadav. You've got to be practical. Also says Sefer Hasidim, can't expect to be wearing your thing around 5 kids and not get grape juice all over the place. So, prevent it from happening by practical steps that you will take, and that would be the right thing. Now, that basically concludes the second seif, which is our pace with Zat Hashem. We will continue starting seif Gimal in the days to come. Hazak Baruch.